What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic Nick.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you. So one that was definitely on my radar just because I've been a big fan of this band for a while was the newest offering from Wormrot, Hiss. This also comes out on the 8th of July, this time on Earache Records, which I guess they still have metal bands, so that's cool. That's cool. I mean, they got a really good one here. This band formed in 2007 in Singapore. This is their 4th album overall. And this is, as it stands, their last album with their vocalist Arif. I'm not entirely sure how to say his name, but he left earlier this year, like not more than a couple months ago, I believe. And for those that don't know, this is an absolutely insane grindcore band. I've been a fan of them since their album Dirge in 2011. It pretty much blew me away. It is just the most insane sounding grindcore, which, I mean, most grindcore sounds insane to anyone that's never heard grindcore, but these guys just have a particular spastic, just always shifting grindcore style, and I think they went even further on this album, and they were already pretty just kind of nuts before, but this new album is very different.
Above and beyond, I think, is the description here, because it's not just grind. It's a myriad of different crazy styles of metal.
Yeah. Regardless of what direction they go, it's always heavy, and it's fiercely grind. Like 21 tracks in about 33 minutes. Man, let me tell you how hard it is to review a grindcore album. There's a lot of pausing in between 3 or 4 tracks. Like, okay, what all did you get? Everything was moving so fast. Man, Jesus Christ.
You've got to pause and take a break, stretch your fingers, take a breather.
Yeah, why am I breathing heavy? I'm just listening to music.
Why am I sweating? I'm only 4 tracks in. God.
It's because I'm in my 40s? Fuck!
Couldn't be because I'm in my 40s and we just went to the buffet.
I mean, that might have been it. At its core, this is definitely grindcore. Like, it has all the hallmarks of grindcore. You have your blast beats, your punky but sort of just super aggressive riffs. But it's what they do sort of in between there and transition to. Like, there's a lot of thrash metal on here, like specifically crossover thrash. Mm-hmm. But it's not like the fast thrash. Like, it's whenever they want to break it down, they seem like they just go for a thrashy riff.
Yeah, because overall, because mostly when you think of grind, you think of super abrasive in your face. And I don't know if I would necessarily call this abrasive at all times. Like, it is very in your face and of course very fast and punchy, but it has more of like a hardcore, like Bay Area hardcore thrash vibe throughout.
Yeah, I mean, there's even like nods to, I would say, straight up punk. Like, I heard like Dead Kennedys style riffs in here, and I have to say, vocally, this is absolutely as nuts as the music is, because the vocals will go from frantic screams, like it sounds like an absolute fucking lunatic just screaming at you, to guttural growls, to like shouts and like gang vocals.
Yeah, gang vocals, whispers, screams, even a little bit of clean chanting.
Yeah,
singing.
Broken Maze.
Broken Maze
is this little clean section. It kind of comes out of nowhere. We both like sat up and looked at each other like, did we just hear what we thought we heard?
Because it sounds like Burton from Fear Factory.
It's very chanty and kind of like low register, and it's in the back of the mix, and that's kind of a cool thing with the mix, is the vocals will pop up in different areas of the mix. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, like sometimes it sounds like they're behind you, sometimes it's in front of you, sometimes they're next to you, sometimes they're back in the mix.
Sometimes they're in your lap.
Sometimes they're in your lap. Sometimes they're directly in front of your face, spitting on you.
But I mean, that kind of works with the whole nature of this album. While it does move at the rate of machine gun fire, there's enough spots of like introspective like atmosphere and, again, just sort of like weirdness. The song Voiceless Choir, which I believe they actually released as a single, actually has a video that themes in with this very creepy album cover. It has spots of some of the prettiest melodies I think I've ever heard in a grindcore album. Like, all of a sudden out of nowhere you get a lot of these atmospheric, dissonant melodies, and then it goes full bore into a thrash breakdown that actually does something I don't really hear in grindcore. They dry hump a riff all the way to the end of the song.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't freak out and go into blasts and screams. Like, it's like, no, we kind of like this thrashy riff. Let's just kind of hang out here and fade out on it.
It's got like an Anthrax kind of groove to it, but it fades out. It doesn't like stop on a dime. It's the gradual fucking groove that fades out.
And man, you get stuck in it. And groove is surprisingly like a big thing on here too. Like whether they bring in like hardcore grooves or like thrash breakdowns. This isn't just the blast beat fest that generally you kind of come to expect from grindcore. Like, you know, just insane turnovers, blast beats, maybe you get a D beat here and there. Granted, those are all here, but really interesting just songwriting dynamics in general.
Like the song Seizures, that starts out with a more structured groove and you get some really big chugs, which is kind of weird, but it's more death metal too. Like there's a lot of death growls in there, and the pace of it all, just the blast beats you'd get out of a death metal album versus a grindcore album.
The tremolo riffing is a little bit more akin to like something you'd hear in like Deicide or Morbid Angel, but again played at grind speed, which is fast for anyone that doesn't know what grind speed is. It's very fast.
But then you get songs like Pale Moonlight and Sea of Disease, where it opens up with like a tribal drum jam. Like especially on Pale Moonlight, there are no other instruments. It's just a drum jam and a guy screaming bloody murder behind it.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you ever been trapped in a fucking New York subway and there's a guy playing drums? Well, imagine there's also a raving homeless man telling you about how his brain has antlers and the only cure is more sriracha. Like, with everything dropped out, you could really hear how crisp these drums sounded. And for as much that's going on in this album, like, I think this mix is absolutely fantastic. The guitars have this great kind of like all-purpose tone.
Yep.
Like, when you get down to the thrashy chugs, like, it's got some fucking beef behind those chugs, but it's really good at the dissonant atmosphere, which, man, this is a very atmospheric grindcore album, and generally grindcore you don't think of atmosphere other than, well, this has been angry for the last 30 minutes and I think this album's trying to hurt me. This is actually, again, like it kind of wraps you up in these weird atmospheric moments and like dissonant melodies, and then beats you over the head over a next section and then throws in a cool breakdown. Like the song structure is really good, and these are short songs.
Short songs, because most of them are less than a minute. Minute 15, minute 20. To squeeze in that many dynamics in such a short period of time. The song Grieve, black metal. Creepy, dark fucking black metal.
Yeah.
Which isn't what you think.
Well, I mean, I definitely heard grindcore get dark, but I mean, in terms of atmosphere, like, well, generally you think of like, you know, bands that have been around for a little bit longer and kind of experimenting more with sound. Like these guys, granted, they've been around since 2007. They've been, well, I don't know, like I would say very comparable to Pig Destroyer, but I think much like Pig Destroyer, they're expanding their sound as well. And this overall thing, it runs through you and runs over you at the same time, because, I mean, I don't know, like it's definitely like, I don't know, it feels like a more emotional album.
Yep.
It's not just the, you know, blitz of blast beats and shit like that. Like there's definitely more substance to it. And overall, like it feels like a way more ambitious album with all the different things they're throwing in here. This pretty much packs all the musical fits of violence that you expect from grindcore, but there's a lot more finesse to it. Like, in terms of like grindcore this year, I've been jamming a lot of the No Mas album that came out, which is absolutely fantastic. But that is more primal. It's more direct. This one, it meanders around and it kind of like navigates this dark fucking weird world that is this album, I guess. And it feels like it has like a very cohesive like narrative to it. Like it opens up with water, like, you know, there's like an ocean, and I think if you watch the music video with the woman emerging from the water to murder the people that maybe murdered her, I don't know the entire storyline, but it was a cool video and it was nice and violent. But it opens and closes like that with the last track, Glass Shards, which, you know, it closes with, I think, her going back in the water, like she's a vengeful wraith or something like that. I don't know, but I know her entire journey, if this is her journey, was very, very violent. And I don't think anyone survived.
It doesn't sound like it.
No.
In fact, not only does it not sound like, on the track All Will Wither, this is another one again with just drums, and the bar none creepiest spoken word I think I've ever heard, ever. I thought somebody was standing behind me. This is not... It's not something to listen to in the dark.
I was going to tell you had a demon cyborg just over your shoulder, but I didn't want to alert you.
It was creepy. Creepy as fuck.
It's okay. It's going home with you. One of my favorite things about this album, again, with the dynamics and still retaining their sound. Like, this is still 100% Wormrot. It's just a bigger sound for them. And Voiceless Choir and Glass Shards are probably the prime examples of them just really expanding their sound and being catchy for grindcore. Now this, again, we're not saying catchy for like, oh, I like, Metallica. I was like, yeah, you'll hate this. You'll probably hate this right away. I don't know. I can't say for sure. But going from Metallica to this, there's other steps you need to take. But Glass Shards, holy shit. This is the longest track in the album at just over 4 minutes. And this one packs in a ton of dynamics, namely melody. Holy shit, there are some catchy fucking melodies. And it's just very strange, like all this distant atmosphere, and then all of a sudden you can go into a giant grind fit. There's death metal riffs on there. There's thrash metal riffs on there. They pretty much just open the fucking floodgates of all things heavy, but all things very engaging.
And close to the end, right before the chick goes back in the water, there's a string section. There's a violin section. And again, it holds with the whole vibe of this record, which is creepy and dark and kind of just like wet and nasty sounding. The strings were a nice touch.
Yeah, and the strings pop up a little bit earlier on too. I wasn't sure what I was hearing at the time.
Either.
Like, is are they doing some weird guitar effect, or is that a saxophone? I don't know, but we're pretty sure it was a string section. But I don't know if they're necessarily playing it as much as giving it like a police beating, like just taking the fucking boots to it medium style. I don't know, maybe medium style. But the overall effect, I mean, it adds the chaotic nature of this album, and this is the kind of chaos I like. Like, we just went over the Altars album, and I wasn't as big of a fan of it, though I do think there's a lot of merit to it, and if you like insanely dissonant, chaotic music, definitely check it out.
Yep.
This is the kind of chaos I like, where there is a unifying theme across the album. As far as grindcore goes, like, it has grind hooks all throughout. This unifying little just shit fit of fucking brutality that is all the way through it. Plus you get a lot of these cool little add-ons, and there are some legit awesome hooks on here. Like, it's actually really fucking catchy. That, for me, makes this way more listenable. And, for most people, I'm sure, that aren't into grind, this is just a blitz of fucking noise and chaos. But for me, this might be one of their fucking coolest albums yet. Honestly, my only issue with this, and it's a very minor one, is there are a lot of songs in here where they definitely show off their experimental side. But I feel like there's a couple of moments where they kind of shoehorn in like a little grind fit. Like, oh, we didn't do a blast beat and just shriek our guts out for a second. Not that I don't like that, but I kind of wanted to hear more of these experimental songs just stand on their own. Like, hey, maybe remove just that little grind fit in there. Like, it's not terrible, but I kind of want to hear the more experimental stuff again, because you're doing it so fucking well on here. But honestly, that is a very minor complaint overall for this fucking insane album. I went into this pretty much expecting kind of what they did before, which I love what they did before. I own all their fucking albums, and they're all amazing. This is, again, much bigger, much wider reaching. There's a greater expanse of like musicality and influences, and this album is fucking insane. So overall, I'm going to give this 4 stars. This is fucking killer. I mean, it's so much to fucking absorb. But honestly, I want to go back to this one, which is why I ordered it earlier today before we even reviewed it, because I knew I was going to fucking like it. This is nuts. And this 4 could go to 4.5. I don't see it going down, because this initial wave that I'm on, it's like, man, dude, that is just a nuts listen. Like, you feel bombarded, but at the same time, like, dude, it's just sort of engrossing. Like, you kind of get lost in this. If you love this band, there's a good chance you'll love this. It is a little bit different, but trust me, if you just like grindcore and you want to hear grindcore do some different shit, check this album out. This album's fucking fantastic, and go get their other albums, because they're also really fucking good.
It's a 4 from me as well, and Nick and I were talking earlier before we did this, and it's a 4 at bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like, it could be 4.5. It's definitely in there. This is grossly entertaining. I mean, not that grind's not entertaining anyway, but usually grind is a more uniform feel, whereas this is really fun in an experimental kind of way. It's like, this is almost like cracking into a piñata when you're a kid, And when it spills open, it's got tons and tons and tons of different shit in it. And then you go picking through it to find out what you like. And that's this in a nutshell. This is like cracking open a piñata.
Except, this one might have like a
Except
grenade
this
or
one
two.
might have like,
Grenades, broken
needles
glass.
and toenails and pubes and shit. As hard as it is to take notes for a grind band because it goes so quickly, I found myself writing down things I never thought I'd write down in a grindcore album. Melody and harmonies and darkness and atmosphere and crazy vocals. If you like grind, especially if you like this band, you're probably really going to like this because this brings a whole new flavor to the table.
Yeah, Pig Destroyer fans too. I mean, I'm absolutely sure you guys will love this.
Yep. Hell, Napalm Death fans are going to love this. And the thrash kids are going to love this because it's packed full of like hardcore and thrash too. Crazy. Good listen. Great time.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you were new to the channel, subscribe because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there'll be a link down below. There will also be a link down there for thrallsmetal.com where you can get one of our kick-ass shirts.
And last but not least, the Denver Death Fest is going to be down below too on September 30th, October 1st, and October 2nd in Denver, Colorado, because where else would it be? Thralls of Metal is hosting the first ever Denver Death Fest.
In Alaska.
In Alaska, yes.
Where Denver is.
Where Denver is. And we are very, very, very close. Probably within the next week. Probably next week sometime around this time we're going to start announcing bands. We are almost full, which is something I didn't think we'd ever get to. We are almost full of bands, so fuck yeah, it's coming. If you want to go. It's gonna be neat.
We'll be there.
We're gonna be there.
I don't know if that's like a good selling point, but
I don't know if it is either, but we're gonna be there.
we're gonna be there.
Yep.
So that's a thing.
So,
and of course, what would the end of our videos be without us profusely thanking you guys for subscribing, liking, commenting, all that shit. We love doing this. I know we do this speech every time, but we mean it every time because we're still kind of bewildered by all this. When we actually sit down and think about it.
I don't get it. Thank you. I don't get it. Two idiots talking on a video all the time about metal that you were probably going to listen to anyway.
God, I love the fact you have no taste out there.
I really do.
It's amazing.
I love. We set the bar so low, and you guys just.
Probably lower it every now and then too.
You guys just step on that bar and
Watch Near Thralls video. Jesus Christ, they get fucking dumber.
I think so.
Yeah.
But it's a thing. It's part of our charm.
Yeah.
Dumbness.
But yeah, we love doing this. Thank you so much, and we will catch you later.